Well, hello, I'm here with Doug. It is Tuesday, January 21, and the title for this one is, of course, Sieg Heil, appropriate to our
Uh,
current time. Um,
so
Elon Musk,
Sam, wait, we should say that we now have a new president in office,
we
and
do.
we have
Actually,
multiple executive orders that have
yeah.
already gone into effect.
Well, yeah, the sidekick made some executive orders, but the real president is, of course, Elon Musk, who has come out over the last month or two as an open Nazi, supporting the Alliance for Deutschland in Germany and holding an interview with them, and then doing two Nazi salutes from the Oval, from the Trump's inauguration. So they've come out of the closet, although I think ever since the beginning of Trump and a little bit back in Bush, the Republican Party has been more and more clearly openly Nazi. And anyway, so the mask is off, and we're now having the Nazi salute. I imagine they'll be using Sieg Heil instead of Hail to the Chief before long. And anyway, uh, so the the Alliance for Deutschland, of course, is number two party in Germany. Musk very strongly supports them. The problem is, even though they are second in parliament, they can't take power because no other party will work with them, and their members are being banned for using open Nazi slogans in Germany, which is currently still illegal. But we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, their leader was fine, or the leader of the party, or one of the high-ranking party
Right.
officials, had been fined over that
Yes.
and warned several times. And he claims to not know about it or be a little uh, not knowing is what I'll say. But what's interesting is he's a history major and happened to study that period of time in German history.
Yeah, well, this is
So,
part of the whole Trump thing. The current technique is to be a Nazi and have a paper-thin denial of it,
yeah,
which they
yeah,
will see through. That Trump has always had Nazi dog whistles, and all the Nazi supporters say he's our man. We understand that he has to like pretend to deny us a little bit just to stay in power.
yeah, yeah.
Um, And so there's another interesting article from Sam Harris about the trouble with Elon, explaining how in March of 2020, Elon claimed that COVID would not ever be a problem. You shouldn't worry about it at all. Um, and at that point, it was already rampant in Italy. And Sam Harris said, "You're out of your mind. It's going to probably kill something like 1 million people in America." And Elon said, "No, I'll bet you $1 million that there will never even be 35,000 cases in America." So a few months later, of course, there were 35,000 deaths and 500,000 cases. And so Elon bet him $1 million for that. And when he tried to collect, Elon just ignored him and started posting lies about him on Twitter, ending their friendship.
I see.
So this is what he is. I mean, now also I mentioned last time he recently pretended to be a video game expert and a transparently fake bribed a real video game expert to let him use his account. It's just amazing how completely a false front he is, and just shamelessly, very much like Trump. So that's that's our true president, Elon. Now the sidekick, Trump, has cashed in on the presidency in an amazing technique, which I'm wondering exactly how illegal it is. He issued a meme coin a few days ago, and because becoming president has made him popular, this became like more than 90% of his total wealth in a hurry. But see, he held back 80% of the coin to be owned by him, only distributing 20%. So its market cap has gone over $10 billion. And that is considered outrageous, even in the cryptocurrency meme coin industry, to give the house a cut of 80%. I mean, this is, in Vegas at roulette, the house cut is like 3%. And in craps, I think it's even less, like 2%. The house cut of 80% is otherwise known as just sticking you up with a gun and stealing your money. I mean, and this is completely forbidden. I mean, you can't have a cut like that on a payday loan or credit card or anything like that. It's but the cryptocurrency industry is not regulated. So I first I wondered why people are complaining and why this is different than other meme coins, but it really is basically like a gambling game where the house keeps 80% of the proceeds, which is insane, could not pass any test by the Security Exchange Commission. And also, of course, the sitting president is not supposed to exploit the presidency to make personal money. Although I Googled it and tried to read the emoluments clauses, and they don't seem to cover this. The emoluments clauses in the Constitution cover money from foreigners and money from the U.S. government, but they don't seem to have considered exploiting like the business private sector to make money while you're president. Although I know Jimmy Carter divested of his farm and all previous
Right.
presidents have chosen not to be engaged in business while in the office. But I think, like so many other things in the Trump uh, era, that has turned out to just sort of be a tradition and not actually enforced by law.
Yeah, I don't know, but you're right. Carter and other presidents did divest.
It was just
And
considered good form, not just
yeah,
like making money out of the presidency. But apparently, it appears to me it's not exactly illegal. And I haven't heard of anybody saying that they think they can stop Trump's meme coin with, but it is clearly his greatest scam ever. He's made more money on this than everything else put together. And in retrospect, in the modern world, this is how you make money out of simply being famous with no product or anything. Now, I used to be the guy that did financial analysis for pyramid schemes for Federal Trade Commission cases. I was the expert on the finances of pyramid schemes, and that's all this is. It was considered illegal at that time. And that's why now companies like Amway stay in business because you don't just get memberships, you also get some product like a cleaner or something.
yeah,
And
yeah,
in what sense? Of course, a meme coin conceals the pyramid structure with a very thin veneer. You know, the pyramid schemes would say you join and you have specific people that are your downline, and they all have to kick a portion of their money up to you. So you can multiply like the geometric magnification of this. And a meme coin accomplishes the same thing without exactly connecting you to your downliners.
right.
So it does seem like a brilliant technological improvement of pyramid schemes to manage to escape legal punishment. So anyway, and the last one I have in this delightful politics stuff is, you remember RFK Jr. is like running to be in charge of the health departments in America, and he's recently trying to deny the fact that he denied that he doesn't believe any vaccines are safe and should all be banned. Just like all the Supreme Court justices pretend they respect Roe versus Wade just to get in. But it has come out that during COVID, he asked the FDA to stop delivering the vaccine. So, this is what we can look forward to when he gets in. If he gets in,
Yes.
what I've heard is he is so outrageous, he might be the one that even the current Republicans in the Senate would actually block. We'll see if they actually dare to block any of Trump's appointees. But apparently they did actually block Matt Gaetz. There are some people that are so terrible that even the Senate Republicans won't put up with them. And it's possible that RFK Jr. Reaches that limit. We're going to see pretty soon, I guess.
Yeah, Sam, we should be clear. He's not against all vaccines.
He has said absolutely that in principle he likes vaccines, but in practice there is not a single vaccine out there that is safe.
Yeah,
So
and
in what sense does he not against them all?
so Sam, technically that's true
Oh, if you
because they're
say they're not perfectly safe, like
correct.
every medical
Yeah.
treatment has some downside, of course, but a medical treatment,
Yes.
you take it because the upside exceeds the downside. Oh, I remember when I went in for surgery, the doctor said, I asked him, are you sure this is going to work? And he said, no, in fact, it could make it worse. I said,
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
that's not exactly reassuring, but I do understand. Of course, that's true. Every
There,
medical intervention is a gamble.
yeah, there's no guarantee in life when
Right.
it comes to biology, except you're going to die.
I know. And every medical thing has an upside and a downside.
Yeah, yeah. I think George Carlin put it best. We are the product of a sexually transmitted terminal disease.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, I've noticed every time we talk about this, they put warnings on our site, on our YouTube video, but it's much better. See, they used to be threatening to cancel me every time we would say anything about vaccination or medicine. Um,
Yeah,
and that made me pretty nervous. But now they just put up a note which says, click this for more reliable information about the vaccine. But last time we discussed politics, and the YouTube actually put up a note that said, you should be informed that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. And I really don't think Google wants to be saying things like that anymore. I imagine they're going to remove that. I don't think any
yeah.
American company can dare to say that anymore. And I know the CEO of Google, I think, was at the inauguration, which means you must bend the knee to Trump. And and publish only Trump's official misinformation. So anyway, we'll see. I think
Yeah,
Google's
we'll see. We'll see.
I think
Time will
Google's
tell,
just been a
right?
little, yeah, I think Google's just a little out of date in updating their facts to meet the modern politically correct facts. Anyway,
Yeah. So, Sam, I got a question. So the inauguration was yesterday.
yeah.
Where was Trump, pardon me, where was Elon and where was RFK Jr.?
Well, I didn't watch it, but I know Elon was there. He's famous. He's right in the front. And
He
they,
was there?
oh yeah, all the oligarchs,
Okay.
the head of Google and
Okay.
Amazon and Jeff all shared the main table right near Trump where the cabinet used to sit. They pushed the cabinet in the background and replaced his table with Zuckerberg and other billionaires. So
Okay.
it's a complete kleptocracy. It's pay to play. What matters in America is this is exactly what Bernie's been talking about for 35 years. It's an oligarchy where we are ruled by a cabal of billionaires who are rich and they have power because they're rich, not because they're ever elected. And the elected leaders are just sort of, sidekicks in the back that the rich just kick around with their money.
Yeah, but Sam, this is the way it's been, but not at this
No,
scale.
it was different than this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree. It's always been the case that money gives you special treatment.
Yes.
Now that has been sort of multiplied by a factor of 100.
Yeah. 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 All
This
right.
I think it's fair to call it the Gilded Age. This happened in the 20s. The rich were so much richer than everybody else that they just we were basically going back to what we were before America, where there was a noble class that could just trample on the commoners.
Yes. Yeah.
Except instead of it being inherited through blue blood, it's appointed in America by being rich. So that's the sense in which we are meritocracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it works, does it not? For a while.
Well, I don't think so. And that's why I've just argued with my sister about this yesterday. She wants the Democrats to change everything. They lost. And I said, no, they only lost by 1%. They don't need to change anything because the Republicans are going to destroy themselves. I think after 4 years of this, the tiny percentage of swing voters, like 5% in America, will have had enough of this and they'll vote for change again. I think all the
Yeah.
Democrats have to do is wait quietly for the Republicans to destroy themselves, and they can run a bland non-entity like Biden again, and he'll win by just not being for Trump.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'll tell you, I was in the Central Valley yesterday down by Fresno, and there were small protests by the Mexican community over Trump taking office, snarling up traffic, passing out leaflets, doing things I will argue peacefully. Um, but it's interesting that immediately taking office, the protests have begun.
Well, he already did close the border,
Right.
the executive order and stuff like that. So I mean, he promised and release all the January 6th people. The QAnon shaman said, "Great, I'm going to go buy a gun."
Yeah, so we have the Berlin Wall up, so to speak.
Well, he has an order, yeah, the closing
Yeah,
order, and yes, I mean all that stuff happened, and I don't know why the Mexicans, Mexicans voted for Trump, Mexican Americans, which is pretty hard to understand,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
black people voted for him. It's That's why I think it won't be long before the people that voted for Trump discover that they're not getting anything they voted for. He's not going to bring down the price of eggs. He's not going to make better jobs for the poor people. It's going to be the rich trampling on you more.
yeah, yeah. And I think we've already seen that Elon wants more H-1B visas.
And lower taxes and more
And
government contracts. They're basically just
yeah,
looting the treasury and putting it in their pocket.
yeah, yeah, and less governmental control. We
Right.
need less oversight.
Yeah, no more like food safety restrictions or anti-pollution
Correct.
controls or
Yeah,
electric vehicle encouragement or any of that nonsense.
yeah.
Just this
You
is
know
what it
that,
was in like 1900, right? It was laissez-faire capitalism. The rich just get to do anything they want and there's no government regulation.
yeah, yeah. And if you want to pollute, that's fine.
Oh, well, they're going to encourage it. He's ended the electronic vehicle encouragement and
Yeah.
increasing the use of fossil fuels because the global warming is just a hoax.
Yeah. As we've seen with the Southern California fires, the worst urban fires in the last 10 years.
No, no, they have an explanation for that. It's God's wrath for having a lesbian fire commissioner.
Yes, exactly. And
So,
and it's also the Jews that control the space lasers.
well, you
But
know,
I've heard a little bit of that one, but that was more popular for previous fires.
well, yeah, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene has disavowed her previous claim on that, but I would imagine they'll start bringing that stuff back.
Yeah, how come she's fallen out of the limelight?
I don't know. She was number two. I thought she was running for
Yeah.
VP. Somehow this is what it always is. There's a bunch of uh, no, minor nobles jockeying for position. Like, what happened to J.D. Vance? He was the golden boy about 2 months ago, and then Elon Musk just sort of threw him to the ground and took over. I think, I think there's just these big, powerful figures claiming the limelight, and she can't compete with them. Christy
Hmm.
Nome seemed to be ahead of her. I mean, but she got a relatively minor position, and Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't seem to have any cabinet position. I don't know what happened. 6 months ago, she was absolutely Trump's right-hand man. Now, then he moved to Laura Loomer, but he's had to throw her to the side because she's too controversial even for Trump. You
All
know,
right.
yeah,
So let's kind of move along here. The
yeah,
the other one that I think is interesting is we saw that Apple was there, right? Tim Cook was there.
every
But
big,
the one, yeah, but the one I want to bring up is Mark Zuckerberg. So Zuckerberg was there in the TikTok ban.
yeah.
And if you know, on Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, the TikTok ban went into effect and TikTok was off the air.
Well, I just listened to the Bugle, and they made the cogent statement that even Jesus was dead longer than TikTok.
It's a good one. All right. So getting back to the TikTok ban, it's interesting because Trump proclaimed that he would sign an executive order to overrule the TikTok ban.
Yeah.
But then that didn't happen. He said that he's made a pledge and let's investigate and let's postpone.
Yeah, by like 90 days or something.
Yeah, yeah, something like 90 days, which is kind of interesting because that's a snub to Zuckerberg because Zuckerberg was in the it had the potential to make billions of dollars off of Reels.
Well, sure, but I think Zuckerberg is digging out of a hole. I mean, Trump threatened to personally throw Zuckerberg in jail about a year ago for daring to have anti-Trump content. And so Zuckerberg bent the knee and said, "We will let you put any propaganda you want. We'll end
Yeah,
fact checking. We'll move our content moderation to Texas. Please, please don't hurt me." And Trump, I think, is still beating him to got him into more submission. I think Zuckerberg was permitted to be at the table at the inauguration, showing a small degree of forgiveness. Remember, this is how tyrants work. They keep everybody around them terrified. You could be purged at any moment. And
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think Zuckerberg has yet paid enough bribes to appease Trump. I think he wants more.
yeah. So you have a 90-day window now.
Right.
There's right. So,
Well,
we'll
TikTok
see.
paid a bribe, and the CEO of TikTok, I think, was invited to the inauguration. Not sure if he went. So, I mean, TikTok paid a bribe, and so Trump is in a good position. You can demand competing bribes from these two guys.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's business.
It's exactly what he said in the art of the deal. This is business. You arrange two people to compete to please you.
Yeah, yeah. And it's going to be interesting because both companies are poised to make billions of dollars off of this.
Absolutely. And this is how it is in Russia too. I mean, what I've heard people
Yeah,
say is in Russia, Putin just tells everybody, you give me 25% of your income or you'll be pushed out a window.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so we're going to keep an eye on the TikTok ban. I think that's pretty interesting.
Well, I think
I don't,
we're not going to ban TikTok. I mean, Trump is now the hero of the young people by allowing it, and I think people want it,
yeah,
and that meant
yeah,
it's popular. So TikTok is in, and if as far as I can tell, there are several competitors, American competitors like Reels, but the TikTok users do not find them compelling. Apparently, the American competitors are nowhere near as good as TikTok.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of like if you want an EV, you get a Tesla, and everybody else are miles, or
Yeah,
years behind.
which is like
right?
pretty common. I mean, TikTok's been doing
Yeah,
it. Reminds me of like Amazon in the cloud. They're really
right.
way ahead of everybody else. Azure is catching up, and Google is a mile behind because Amazon was there first, and their product is just more mature.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And TikTok has that maturity model.
Yeah, and so it's the only this is reminds me of when Microsoft brought out a phone. I mean, if you're going to barge into an industry where other people, strong players, own it, you have to have a product that is much better or much cheaper. And
Yeah,
Microsoft didn't, and I don't think Reels has it. You got to somehow have to be much better than TikTok or have some other huge advantage.
yeah. And I think that younger people are into TikTok. That's where they also get their news.
Yeah.
But Reels is for older people, is the way I'll phrase that.
Well, I think like me, there's a whole bunch of people that are government forbidden to use TikTok, which is the kind of thing arguably is a failure of the First Amendment and free speech. Like, Bernie and AOC said, whole ban is kind of nonsense. Banning a
Yeah,
news source in America from the government is kind of bad, but they created a generation gap. All of us that are military contractors or work for the government in any capacity have to not have TikTok on our phone. So even though I made some brief attempt to try to use TikTok and understand it, that was cut short. And so I think it sort of amplifies it. And it's kind of an artificial ban that old people can't use TikTok.
yeah. Interesting, huh? Interesting. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I don't know. I'm curious to see if there were other protests. I don't know if you've heard of any. I think there were protests in San Francisco about Trump taking office.
I would imagine, although
Yeah,
nothing like the last time when there was like
yeah,
really a
nothing like,
long march or
yeah,
something. I mean, the
yeah,
Democratic elites have all decided to like meekly go along with it and have tea with him and shake his hand and everything, even though they were calling him a Nazi all along. So that really kind of places them in the position of deplorable hypocrites.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, and all the business leaders are, of course, doing their correct job, which is to cooperate with the government in order to make more money. That really is the job of a CEO.
yeah, yeah. All right, Sam, what's your next story?
Well, I got a whole bunch of throwing
Okay.
dirt on AI. So they brought out something called Chat GPT tasks, which is an attempt to agentify AI. Everybody's doing this now. Salesforce seems to have the most mature offering of agents that will do a job for you, like interview candidates with replacing your HR staff with an AI and stuff. So they invented Chat GPT tasks where you can do something like Microsoft scheduled tasks with an AI bot. It's in like a beta, and this guy said it sort of works, although it will sometimes go off too often or 10 hours late. So the timing isn't really that great. And then the work it does isn't that great. He said, well, what I'll do is I'll make it do a summary of the news for me. And he found sometimes it just makes up stories that aren't there. Sometimes it gives him sources and stories from a year ago. Sometimes it cites stories that supposedly came from one site, but came from completely different sites. And some links that say they're about one topic actually point somewhere totally different. And by the way, I must say, I manually curate news links. And this thing about being off by a year, I understand why that happens. It happens to me all the time. There's a whole bunch of news aggregate sites that frequently post a link from the previous year. I think because somebody might put the wrong year on a page or some kind of defect goes somewhere. But this is something I've watched out. When an exciting story pops up, at one source, and I haven't seen it elsewhere, I check, and very often it's a year or two old.
Yeah, I've run into that too.
Yeah, so I think it just probably means people put the wrong date on things or whatever aggregator doesn't read the whole date. It only gets the month and year, month and day.
Yeah, or you know what else I've seen is I think some of these sites publish stories that are old, which make them appear to be new.
Yep.
So in other words, it's a 3-year-old, 4-year-old story that's
Yeah.
being published today.
Yeah, and it sounds new because you've forgotten. And these things,
Yeah,
often it rises back to prominence again and goes through the echo chamber, and everybody thinks it's new because it's
right.
yeah. So I got a
Yeah,
it fooled me years ago a few times, and now I'm careful to check.
yeah, it's fooled me too. And obviously it was for the clicks,
It
right?
could be, but I think it might just be an honest mistake too.
No, I don't think so. There are too many of them, and they're on the what I will say slimier websites.
You could well be right. Um,
Yeah,
anyway, so in in exactly the same spirit, Apple's AI. Well, I've been watching for this and saying, boy, I can't wait for Apple's AI to show us how to do AI right. And that is totally not what happened. I mean, people paid for the latest Apple phone to get this glorious AI assistant. And so far, it doesn't do anything. The only thing it does, I mean, they said it was going to be like your personal secretary, arranging your life, making appointments, noticing schedule conflicts, reading your email for you. None of that has happened. All it will do is news aggregation, and they just pulled that down because it's terrible. And the news aggregation is so wrong. Like in December, BBC News accused Apple AI of sending a false push notification about Luigi Mangione, the guy that shot the CEO.
Yeah.
And it said he had committed suicide because the AI garbled the story that somebody got killed and this guy's in prison so badly. That was the headline summary, that he committed suicide in prison, which is completely not true. And in January, the National Union of Journalists and Journalism, body Reporters Without Borders, publicly urged Apple to remove the generative AI feature, citing the inability of AI systems to systematically publish quality information, even when it's based on journalistic sources. So Apple AI seems to be a disaster. And it's just amazing. The money flows into it. Several companies have announced they're going to invest $100 billion in more AI now, and yet it doesn't seem to produce anything anybody wants yet.
It's a little, I use it from time to time. It's a little helpful, but you can't trust it.
It
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's just a little bit helpful when coding and stuff, but
Yeah.
its actual results seem to be amazingly out of touch with the amount of money being invested. Everybody's believing
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
gigantic pot of gold coming, and I wonder.
Well, it's like cryptocurrency. Everybody that was going to be a win.
It was a win for Trump. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you can totally make money in cryptocurrency, but it is just a Ponzi scheme, so it can only benefit the small minority at the top. Everybody else just loses.
Yeah,
AI,
Sam.
AI was supposed to be like a new technology like the iPhone or something that really just sort of benefit everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we've seen this in the past. I've brought this up before.
Yeah.
If you go back 120, 130, 40 years, the
Mhm.
cryptocurrency scam of the time were trees, and it was planting eucalyptus trees.
And before that,
And if you
tulips.
and before that was tulips. Yeah, yeah. And people made a lot of money planting eucalyptus seedlings, promising people great wealth. 10 years when the trees mature and they can be cut down and used for building homes and construction.
Yeah, yeah. Just so like so many scams, like medical scams. It's
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, yeah. And then there's what happened. Now they're all a fire hazard.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there's OpenAI had got a
Yeah.
chat GPT crawler that crawls the web now. And it turns
Okay.
out to have tragic cybersecurity flaws. You can submit links to it to have them crawled. In fact, you can submit a lot of copies of the same link to it with small changes in the URL that don't affect it, so you can use it to perform a DDoS attack. You can send requests to the API, and it will just send many requests and DDoS the site. And it's got command injection. You can send queries mixed in with the links, and it will run the AI on the queries and send the answers back. So it just seems to be spectacularly insecure in simple, old-fashioned ways. So there's that. And a company called Sage made a copilot for business in the UK where you can like query your invoices. And a customer found that when you query your invoices, you get other companies' invoices. Because this is something AI does a lot. Like it learns from training data and then it just repeats what it's learned to everybody. That's why all the big companies have forbidden everyone using the cloud versions of like Open, ChatGPT, and all those other things at every major company for at least a year, because anything you send up there will be used to train the model and echo
Yeah.
out to other people. So it's basically publicly publishing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the last one I mentioned is GeoSpy. GeoSpy is out, and now my sister is a big advocate of this game where you see a picture view through a window and then you try to figure out where it is, which is sounds impossible, but the people become experts at this. And they can take a picture of like the corner of a building through the trees in Russia, and people will figure out exactly where it is. But GeoSpy does it for you with AI. It can predict with high accuracy the location of photos based on features like vegetation, architecture, and the distance between buildings, and it can do it in seconds. And so this is a boon to police and to stalkers. You can take any picture and geolocate it quickly. And so that's a thing to be aware of. It reminds me of when the Google glasses first came out. The first promotional video showed someone wearing the glasses, going to a party, and they would meet someone and he'd say, "Hi, I'm Joe." And it would pop up. This person's real name is Gerald Brown. They have this criminal record. They earn
Yeah.
this much income. They have these known diseases. And that's what this thing is like. It tells you everything about someone from just a snap. It
Yeah.
tells you their physical
Interesting.
location so you can track them down. So,
Yeah. So is this a public website?
yeah,
Is
apparently.
is there a fee involved? Do you know?
I'm guessing there must be because they're selling it to law enforcement. So,
I see.
yeah.
Okay.
But it reminds me there was one that came out about 6 years ago that would identify people with face recognition, and it just trained on all the data. By the way, both of them train on all this data without permission. They train on all
Yeah.
the photos on the web, so they're probably going to be sued for invasion of copyright or whatever that is. But in the meantime, there is a product that can apparently, with great accuracy, geolocate you from just a picture, and this means nobody, everybody has some kind of picture on their profile or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it means people can physically locate you. Now, I must say, I remember when the internet became popular like 20 years ago, I decided I'm just going to be a public figure, publish my class schedule online. Anybody can find me anytime, but nobody wants to find me except students. I don't have any stalkers or anything because there's no point. It's like my car. My car has advanced endpoint protection. It's so old and beat up that nobody bothers to steal it or break in. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. What else do you have for us?
Oh, okay. Well, they're in they've invented a micro drone. I've been waiting for this for a while. I've seen them in science fiction. If you could make a drone the size of a mosquito, I think it would be the most powerful weapon ever. And they now have a version of it. It turns out the problem with this has been that when they make tiny drones, like just an inch across, the force of the wings causes them to like break within a few seconds.
Oh, I
And so
see.
what they did
Okay.
was they made the wings flexible and they made the connection to the body flexible to distribute the pressure. And now the drone could fly for like 15 minutes before breaking. And they've got it demonstrated. You can flip and fly around, and it's only an inch or two across. So it's getting down to the size of a bug. The problem is right now, it doesn't have enough battery to run on its own. You have to have it tethered to a power source, but they're working on
Ah,
fixing that. And I think there's lots of ways to fix that. So when they can make something that can run for 15 minutes and it's really small, then I think you could do anything with it. You could sneak it in anywhere to take pictures. You could land it on somebody and inject some poison and kill them. I mean, it seems like this this would be a giant leap forward in the power of drones.
hmm. Yeah. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. We'll see possibilities, but you're right. I think the biggest problem that you're going to have is the power source.
Right. And what I'm thinking is you could beam power to it, like microwaves or something might be a way to do it. Carrying a battery around is probably not going to be practical.
Yeah, but carrying a battery isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But also beaming microwaves to it means it has to be line of sight.
That's right. And so originally you'd have to have a controller in the same room. So it wouldn't be But that would be, but it's only going to fly for 15 minutes. I mean, you might accept that. So if you have like an inauguration event with a crowd and some
Yeah.
politician, you could control this thing and go kill that politician with an injection of poison. So I'm thinking it would be like Trump currently, because there's so many people tried to kill him, he now stands behind like plexiglass to stop the bullets, but it wouldn't stop this drone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Sam, it's the magic bullet that killed JFK.
It is.
That's not the bullet.
It is the
That
bullet.
doesn't have to go in a linear fashion.
That's right. That's why I'm thinking, this is an important technology to watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. Any more stories? I have one that we'll wrap up with.
Okay, well, I got a couple more for that then.
Okay.
The MITRE attack framework has been around for
Yes.
years. Well, now they have a defend framework from MITRE, similarly, that lists all the cybersecurity defenses. So I think that's a step forward. Another big chart
Yes.
categorizing that. I'm sure I'm going to have to learn that and teach it in all my classes. Um, and the Diffie-Hellman exchange, where you,
Wait. Let me back up for that.
yeah,
With the minor defense,
yeah,
so you have an attack vector in what you have is the corresponding defense mechanism
Yeah,
or
yeah,
mechanisms.
they break it into categories of harden, detect, and isolate.
I
And
see.
then you
Okay.
have things like application agent authentication, application hardening, credential hardening, and so on. So they've just categorized defenses in
Yeah. So a company gets attacked and now they know what the possible remediation methods are.
yeah, and I mean they've been using the attack framework like this for a while. People like
Right.
IPs and firewalls will like try to say these are the attacks we stop. So now instead of trying to use the attack framework to categorize defenses, they're developing a defense framework, which is probably more logical. These are the defenses
Yeah.
we offer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I,
So I wonder if that's marketing, if there are companies that are going to be making money off of it, like use our product, or if it's just general, like
well,
a firewall.
I think it's both. I mean, the point is,
Okay.
this is how science starts, right? If you have a little kid, you can give them like little plastic toys and say, separate the animals from the vegetables and
Yeah.
minerals. I mean, the first step in science is taxonomy, sorting whatever you have into categories.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
try to
Yeah.
like develop scientific models and mathematical models and stuff. So I think this is the first step of security turning into a science instead of its current state, which is pretty much an art.
Yeah.
Actually have some
Yeah.
kind of like categorization, and therefore maybe we can eventually get to a metric where your current security is a 5, but if you got it up to a 6, then you would save this much money. It would be nice if we had it that scientific, and we're not remotely close to that. But the first step is to categorize things.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, sure, marketers will, of course, use it. And really, they should. I mean, the goal is it ought to be an actual quantifiable measure of how good your security is, and therefore you could rate products and how much additional security they
Yeah.
provide to you. Um,
Yeah. Okay. What else do you have?
well, you know the Diffie-Hellman key exchange,
Yeah. Right.
where you make up a prime number. Well, you multiply two prime numbers together, and you send that number to the other guy, and your
Well,
other
you
guy
said you said yeah.
And the
Yeah.
other guy multiplies two prime numbers together and sends it back.
Yeah.
Therefore, the two of you are able to deduce a key without ever directly sending the key. The problem is, of course, quantum computers will presumably break all those compound numbers to their primes within 20 or 30 years, and so that won't be secure anymore. So they have developed a quantum version of it, where what you do is you have a fiber optic connecting you and the other person, and you send through quantum entanglement. You send information with entangled photons at both ends, and they have developed a Diffie-Hellman exchange based on that. So the security is protected by the laws of quantum mechanics, not by the difficulty of a mathematical problem. And so, in principle, that would be the next step forward, a whole different principle, and they've figured out how to do it with something called bijective mapping. So
Hmm.
it's a
Interesting.
theoretical advance into the world of quantum computing. And there was another test recently where they did manage to send entangled photons through a bunch of fiber optics while other data was going through there. So we are moving towards a quantum internet where we exchange not just bits, but qubits to remote locations and engage in activities like quantum teleportation to move information from one location to another. So it's still all early prototypes, but this is something we've been talking about for years. Like in a couple of decades, we expect to have quantum computing, which will make certain activities much more powerful. And we also expect to have a quantum internet where we trade quantum data from location to location instead of just digital data. So both of these probably will be extremely powerful and helpful, but not practical for a couple of decades.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And in case you care, I got some Apple AirTags, and those things are great. They really work. Google has a competitor, which apparently is complete trash. And this one person has been testing the Google product for like 8 months, and she said, I try them again and again. I keep putting off this article saying, surely they're going to fix it, and they never fix it. What happens if you put an Apple AirTag in your suitcase or something, it updates every 5 minutes. You totally know where that suitcase is. The Google thing doesn't update for up to 8 hours. Their network is, the AirTag works by finding nearby connections, I think, on Bluetooth. And I think the point is there's so many iPhones everywhere that
Right.
there's always an Apple device somewhere nearby. And apparently the Google devices just aren't finding anything to talk to that often. So you can you just never get enough updates about where the thing is. They say the
Yeah,
problem is their network.
yeah, kind of a side story is there have been people who've had Teslas that have been involved in accidents and they've been totaled by the insurance company. So they throw an air tag into it and they find out where it goes and
I
they
thought,
trace.
doesn't Tesla have a built-in tracker locator? Like,
Yeah, but if the car's been totaled,
okay,
then the battery power source, I assume, will be disconnected.
okay,
Should be.
yeah.
So what happens is they've tracked it to a port city and then it disappears for a couple weeks. Next thing they find it in China
Well, sure. I thought
or
that,
Russia,
right.
Russia or China.
And
Yeah.
that's not illegal, right? That's just
No, no, no. It's not illegal.
it's like
Just interesting.
most e-waste ends up in China, right? They just take it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, or Africa. Africa
yeah,
is where the e-waste goes.
yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So somebody buys all that wrecked cars, and there's probably some value in it.
Yeah. 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 Or they fix them up. They're back on the road again.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so the last one I
Yeah.
got is an
Okay.
article saying multi-factor authentication failures, the worst is yet to come. As you know, multi-factor authentication is the golden security thing everybody does. Your first step to improve your security is to go to multi-factor.
Wait. It depends what the other factors are. So
It
let's
does,
be,
but in general,
yes.
moving from single factor to multi-factor is seen as a giant leap forward in your security, and I think fairly so. But they point out that current attacks are getting powerful. So, in fact, people have developed a lot of techniques to attack multi-factor, like phishing, man-in-the-middle attacks, prompt bombing, where I just keep popping up prompts until somebody agrees, SIM
Yeah.
swapping, and credential stuffing. Just like every other security measure, this new security measure came out, and a bunch of attacks have been improving using AIs to write better phishing messages and stuff to where they say, it's becoming more and more common that the bad guys successfully punch through your multi-factor authentication. So it's a thing to be aware of. It's it's less valuable than it used to be.
Yeah. Well, as we've seen, SMS for multi-factor authentication does not, it should not be used.
Well, I've had this argument many times. I think it's still better than single factor authentication, but you should be aware that it is the
Yeah.
weakest form of multi-factor, and you can.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, every security measure has its place. It will stop some attackers, but SMS is the weakest form of multi.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like one of those RSA tokens is probably the strongest, or YubiKey,
Yeah.
a physical hardware thing. And an app
Right.
on your phone is kind of in between.
Yeah. So can an app on your phone be compromised for
I,
multi-factor?
I think so. All they have to do is put malware on your phone.
Oh, I see what you're
But if you
saying.
have an
Yeah.
RSA token, then that's not as easy, although they can
Yeah.
then try to intercept it on the network. That's why none of it's perfect. You know, it,
Yeah. Yeah.
it all
Yeah.
lowers the chance of bad guys getting in, but not remotely lowers it to zero.
Uh, It's just like medicine, right?
Well, some medicine is amazingly good, like clean water
Right.
and the flu vaccine. These are amazingly powerful. They have like a million times more benefit than risk, but multi-factor authentication is not that powerful.
True. True. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So one more story for you, or is that it?
No, I'm done.
Okay. So I was going to bring up, this was on Marketplace Tech,
Yeah.
first first podcast where they have a new president, and they were talking about um, ideologies, and we've had effective. Um, Help me out, Sam.
Effective altruism.
Yeah, effective altruism. Oh, I got a misspelling there. And now we have effective accelerationism.
Well, I don't think they call it effective, but it's accelerationism. Those are the two alternatives. These are basically the religions of Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, effective
So,
is the one
yeah,
Musk pushes, where you say people in the future are just as valuable as people today. So if I make my factory workers work and get COVID and die to make Teslas, and the Teslas mean we preserve the environment and get to Mars, and therefore the human race survives in 5,000 years, then that is worth it because the future people's benefit is worth the current people's suffering. That's effective altruism.
okay, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds good in principle, but of course the problem is that future is just speculation. So it amounts to the
True.
same thing nobles have always said, what the commoners need to do is suffer so I can have what I want today. And that's morality.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell them, in the future, it'll be good that I got what I wanted today. Your grandchildren will thank me for sacrificing you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Might even be true, I suppose. But the
So,
point,
which one is best for Silicon Valley for making profits or for VCs?
oh, I think the second one, which is this is why Elon Musk. I mean, Elon Musk is a proponent
Yeah.
of effective altruism, and he made that famous letter about 9 months ago where he said all AI should stop developing for 6 months to avoid the risk. Where what he really meant is it's going to take me that long to buy a bunch of GPUs to build up my own AI to catch up. But
Yeah.
that was effective altruism has been used to say we should hold back AI because it's too dangerous.
Right. Right. Right.
Accelerationism just says go, 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 make this stuff faster,
Yeah.
money, pile it on. And OpenAI, as Elon Musk complains a lot, OpenAI is kind of hypocritical as hell. They pretended to be all careful and responsible and slow about developing, and in fact, they're just getting all the money and go, 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 making more profit like crazy while pretending to be like restrained and moral about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No, and realistically, what else is anybody in Silicon Valley going to do except go, 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 full speed ahead, make more of it? That's what they do. This part where,
Right.
oh, let's not get this pile of money. Let's sit and think deep thoughts about whether that would be moral. That is not Silicon Valley.
No venture capitalist is going to do that. Venture capitalists want to make money.
All capitalists just want to make money.
Correct.
I mean, I agree with the accelerationists. I think all these fears about AI are bullshit, and we should just go, go, go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They think it's going to be the Terminator and kill us all. And it reminds me when I first started teaching hacking, I was afraid my students would be dangerous criminals and hack everything. And it turned out the problem with my students is they weren't dangerous enough. And the same thing with AI. You think AI is going to be the Terminator and kill us all. AI can't even write an accurate headline. You know, the problem is it can't do much of anything. So
Yeah.
making it more powerful is what we need.
Yeah.
We're nowhere near having it wipe us out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I agree, Sam.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. But under Trump, we should have the accelerationism.
I would think so, yes.
I would think so too.
He already, in
Yeah.
fact, repealed Biden's executive order about AI, and even Biden's order restraining AI was extremely weak and ineffective. But even that was too much for Trump, so he's totally go go go.
Yeah. Well, Elon.
Well, sure, but also Trump. I mean, this is also Republicans in general. Republicans
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
pro-business, uh, forget about safety and regulations and everything, just go go go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have some sympathy for that. Oh, and I noticed I had a story I missed before, which was pretty
Oh,
interesting. I
okay.
always wondered, like, what good is sleep anyway? This has been a mystery my whole life. Why do humans have to sleep? If they don't sleep, they tend to go crazy. What exactly happens when you're sleeping that needs to happen? And they have a new answer for this, and a reason why it wasn't found before, which is your cells produce waste products and you have to flush them out, but the brain has a blood-brain barrier, and they never figured out how you wash it out. Well, the answer is when you are having normal sleep, there is a period of sleep where you flush the toxins out of your brain with the cerebrospinal fluid, but it only happens when you're normally sleeping. It does not happen when you have sleeping pills or anesthesia. And all the medical research was, of course, anesthetizing rats to study them, so they weren't finding this. Now, somebody actually developed a system where they have rats running around a cage and they don't anesthetize them. They just wait for them to go to sleep naturally and then do like an image of their brain with like an implant that measures the cerebrospinal fluid or something. And they were able to show that natural sleep is different than drugged sleep. And this also explains something else I've heard all my life. I've never done sleeping pills, but people say if you take sleeping pills, they really don't help. You never really feel good. You're groggy all the time. It's not as good as natural sleep, apparently. And again, nobody really knew why.
Yeah. No, I've actually heard that research maybe a year and a half ago
Oh.
that we finally found it out. It's a garbage collection mechanism, if you will.
Yeah, and therefore, this also explains, I think, the well-known fact that if people can't sleep for like a few weeks, they become psychotic and start having hallucinations
Yeah.
and stuff. Some really important part of their brain starts going wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Except for, of
Exactly.
course, a few people who just never sleep and are fine. Just like there's some people that have an eidetic memory, can remember everything that happens. The brain is just not simple at all. It doesn't even seem to have simple design limitations like you'd think. There are just a few exceptional people that do something that seems impossible that they really do, like just never sleep at all. Trump is not far from it, and so was Edison. I mean, as far as anybody can tell, Trump only seems to sleep about 2 hours a night. And I think Thomas Edison only did that too. Some people seem to do
Yeah,
okay.
there's some people that seem to get by with I've heard 4 hours of sleep at night.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah. And Trump is famous for this. Although many people say he just takes a lot of stimulants, which may be true, but anyway, he does seem to be always up at like 3 in the morning tweeting about stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. On the other side, you also have people that can't get enough sleep
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
or yeah, or have narcolepsy. They fall asleep.
yeah. And some people, depressed people, often sleep too much, like 16 hours a night.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
too much is bad for you, not enough is bad for you, except for a few exceptional individuals that just seem to defy these rules. And I would suppose the people who never sleep at all, you could eventually find that there's some protein they're lacking or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. We haven't found it yet, or at least not that we know of, but
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah.
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 Anyway,
Interesting. All right. Well,
yep,
that's it for me. We'll see you on Friday.
yep. We'll do another one of these on Friday.